Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us and subscribing to us on iTunes or wherever you are listening to this podcast, because now the Mile High Podcast is heard all over the world on iTunes, Stitcher. We also put it on Facebook and YouTube and a whole range of other hosting sites for podcasts. So wherever you're listening to this, please remember to hit subscribe and leave us feedback. We love having you as part of the audience and want to know who else you'd like to have us interview. And I also want to remind you to clear your calendar, mark your calendar for Mile High, August 17th to 20th, 2017, and this podcast is coming out at the end of December, just around the holidays. And so I want to have a reminder for people that as of December 31st, registration rates change, so you want to rise up to Mile High and commit to that before December 31st, before we go into the new year. Also, that can be accessed with streaming and video access of past years of Mile High. So remember to do that at www.milehighchiro.org. And I am super excited for our interview today because this year's Mile High event, which we are going all year round now that we have philosophy nights and also with the podcast, is going to be highlighting research in chiropractic and science, and especially the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research, and giving a portion of proceeds to the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research this year. And so I'm grateful to be speaking with the Foundation's Executive Director, Christie Kwon. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey Danny, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm always glad to be a part of anything related to Mile High. It's a really great event, so excited to be there.
Well, and you've been there, I think, the last 3 years?
Yep, and it's always been a phenomenal event. I'm always impressed. It's a great turnout, fantastic speakers. You and Rochelle do such a great job just putting the event on. Really. A great time.
Thank you for saying that. And it's to create a home for people that are committed to the foundational principles of chiropractic, which the foundation is. So let's talk about that. First of all, I would like people to get to know you. What's your background in chiropractic? How'd you find your way into chiropractic and connected to the foundation?
Sure. Well, my background prior to really coming to Life University wasn't very much in chiropractic. I have a background in biomedical engineering, and I was trying to kind of figure out what I want to do that could take my interest in science and the human body, but sort of my lack of interest in allopathic medicine. And along the way, along my journey, I met a chiropractor, and he introduced me to the science, the philosophy, and the art of it. I got under chiropractic care. I found amazing results, and I was kind of one of those people who's like, oh, I'm fine. I wasn't in pain. I was healthy. I was in my early 20s, just finishing up my master's degree at the time. And so, but then I was like, oh, wow, this is even better. This is even better. And so I came to chiropractic school. I went to Life University. While I was there as a student, early on, I met Dr. Matt McCoy. He's one of my mentors. He and Dr. Chris Kent started the foundation in 2010, and they asked me to come on board as the executive director, and I've been a part of it ever since, and I'm really grateful for it. Most importantly, because the values and the mission of the foundation really strongly align with what I'm interested in, but also it gives me an avenue to pursue research in chiropractic, because research is really my background and my passion, along with chiropractic, and it's allowed me to merge the two, which isn't really, a common option in our profession.
And it's an important thing. It's vitally important. I've been around a lot of things relative to chiropractic research, gratefully, in my 20 years involved with chiropractic, since I went to, since graduating and years before then. So I know how important it is, so I'm really grateful to highlight that. And it's amazing, 2010, so 7 years, a lot has happened in 7 years with the foundation. I did not realize that. That's pretty amazing. And see, so the thing is, we have an incredible bedrock of research in chiropractic. However, that like any other area of healing arts, has to grow continuously. And there's not as much growth in that going on as we'd like to see. I know that's one of the objectives of the foundation is to continue to compile and do more research for chiropractic. So tell me a little bit about what your role is with the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research.
Sure. So, of course, it's a small organization. We're a nonprofit. Our board members include Dr. Chris Kent, our president, Dr. Matt McCoy, our vice president, and then Dr. Veronica Gutierrez and Dr. Curtis Fedorchuk, and I serve as the executive director. Day to day, we get a lot of emails and inquiries from chiropractors who are interested in getting involved in research, and every so often I'll even hear from CA staff who heard one of us speak somewhere, and they're really interested in doing research out of the office. So it's not even always the doctor spearheading the work, but staff members who are really invested in chiropractic and want to get involved, which I think is even more phenomenal. And so we help sort of train and mentor chiropractors and people in chiropractic to do research. So one-on-one communication that way. I've been able to travel some to speak to chiropractors in larger audiences to talk about how to conduct research. And then we also have our own institutional review board, which is a body of people who are able to review research for safety and things like that. It's a federal requirement that all researchers go through the IRB process before they start collecting their data. And we're able to provide that service for the profession as well.
And that's all vital. And I know the foundation is doing a great job at it, especially with early years here. What can you say anything about your perspective on the importance of research for chiropractic?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's absolutely essential. I think one of the major things that we're focused on with the foundation is preserving our identity and continuing to maintain our lexicon and explore the subluxation and subluxation correction, but also recognizing that as a profession in that avenue, we really haven't even reached our full potential. We haven't been able to produce all of the evidence that shows everything that we're able to do through the chiropractic adjustment. And so, I think research is going to allow us to really do that. And one of the most exciting things that we're putting together right now, it's a lot of work, but we have a guidelines project going on. So practice guidelines for the profession are absolutely essential documents, and they're going to be filed with the federal government through AHRQ, the National Guidelines Clearinghouse. And so it's a compilation of all of the research that's really ever been produced relevant to chiropractic. And we're about a third to a halfway through. We've already collected about 2,500 research articles for this document. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of work, but it's going to be really rewarding because it's going to show us a lot bigger evidence base, I hope, to provide chiropractic care and also to continue doing research. And one of the things that I think people sort of outside of at least our bubble say is that, if you're just doing a case study, it's useless. But I would argue against that vehemently, because I really think that any little bit of research that a chiropractor produces in their office, it represents something much greater as a collective. And so I really want to see chiropractors just see research in a different light to a certain extent. Yeah, and I think it's really going to let us maximize our potential.
And I'm really glad to hear that about guidelines, because I know we both know that these are outdated, but the CCP guidelines, which were phenomenal, but those, we need a new set. I mean, I don't remember how many years ago those were.
It's been a little while.
It's been a little while, right? So it's time to do that, and it's vital because people have to have a reference. If you don't have a standard of care that you can reference when you're in legal situations, when you want to know what to do to deliver the best care, if you don't have that information at your fingertips, it's a real challenge on so many levels for the profession. So I don't want people to forget how vital that is, and actually I want to remind them that this is, if we don't fund that and we don't have that happening, and I'm grateful that the foundation's doing it, because I know other entities could do it and would skew it in a different light, which we do not want to have, is powerful. So I'm glad to be a part of making sure that happens by helping people know about the foundation. Now, with that, let's case studies also. Not just case studies, but what was you've been around that for how many years? How many years were you involved?
With the foundation, I've
Yeah.
been involved with the foundation since its inception, so 2010.
Oh, so you've been since. Oh, I did not realize that. Okay,
Yeah.
now with that, let me ask you this. This is just kind of a fun question. What were some of the things that were chiropractic research in that time that you found particularly exciting or interesting? Like a case study, or maybe something that wasn't a case study, like that you're like, this was really cool.
Well, something we have going on right now that I think is really exciting, it's coming out of Dr. Fedorchuk's office, is essentially looking at spinal curves, most specifically in the thoracic spine, and how hyperkyphosis is related to type 1 diabetes mellitus. So, type 2 is more of a prevalent lifestyle-related disease, but it's traditionally thought that individuals who have type 1, it's an autoimmune attack on the pancreas, and there's really nothing to bring those beta cells back to life. But what we're seeing in the preliminary data is that through chiropractic care and correcting that hyperkyphosis actually induces a change in those individuals, a pretty serious and significant physiological change in their bodies and their ability to handle, produce insulin and handle their blood sugar levels. So that's, I think, one of the most phenomenal and amazing things that we have going on right now. My own research has been more focused on pregnancy and birth outcomes and the ability for women to deliver vaginally, even if they have a breach or a malpresentation at some point in their pregnancy, and also helping to give them a venue, an avenue to have a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean, which we know is really important and beneficial for mom and baby as an individual, but again, as a collective, as far as guidelines and things like that go. Even the Healthy People 2020 document, the U.S. Government wants to see a reduction in cesarean births, so it definitely provides support to that. Another thing is that we have to keep in mind that the research that we produce isn't just about our country, but also nations where chiropractors aren't allowed to advertise by patient testimonial and things like that. And so it's a smaller population of chiropractors worldwide than we have here, really. And so it's important that we're able to provide that for the profession worldwide.
Oh, that's true. And then referencing a case study is huge, because it's not a testimonial. You're referencing research, so that's also tremendous. I know I've had the joy of seeing my name in print in several articles through the journals that were related to more cord press. So I always find that very exciting to see. And I know the students get super excited that work on some of those projects. So it's really to see that enthusiasm as well, and the connection between that and doctors in the field, because I think it provides something really incredible when we see that happen as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's really awesome to see students who get engaged in the research. I teach a senior thesis course, and some of the students get really excited about the work they're producing, and they see the value of it. And I think the importance of that is that if you become somewhat comfortable about reading and writing research early on, you're more likely to continue to engage in that. So you're in your practice one day and say, well, this is pretty interesting, and just put it aside, versus this is really interesting, I should put this in writing and share it with people. And that's really all the difference is. And there are chiropractors who do research on nearly any topic related to chiropractic care. It's really not just one area or one condition or anything like that.
Wow. And I want to also remind people, before we go into more questions, that Dr. Fedorchuk, which we just mentioned, that research, that he is going to be speaking at Mile High this coming year, which I'm super excited about. I haven't met him. We've had a few conversations, but I think it's going to be stellar. I know how much people really enjoy his presentations. And, of course, you are also. So that's very cool. Having been there 3 times to get to speak is awesome. Can you say anything about what you're going to be sharing?
I'm really excited, and I'm going to speak a little bit to just that, trying to get people a little bit more excited. And a lot of times when I do speak to chiropractors about getting involved in research, it's either I'm not really sure where to start, so I'm going to give the audience a little bit of advice on where to get started, and also the question of what's a good project. I get a lot of students and a lot of people in the field who say, well, is this good enough? Is this good enough for a research project? And I don't think I've ever been able to say no. It's always a good idea. Anything that can show that there was a benefit to being in your office, a benefit to getting adjusted, I would say is going to be something that helps us.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I know Dr. Fedorchuk's really excited, and we're really grateful for Mile High and you guys supporting the foundation.
Well, and we want to highlight it all year because it's vital. Now, before we started recording, you said some things about seeing how far the foundation's come at a recent meeting and meeting some of your goals and setting a new agenda. Can you share a little bit about that for people that know that? Because there are a lot of people that support the foundation, and to get to watch this and see a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes would be great for them.
Yeah, well, I want to say thanks to anyone who's out there listening who supported the foundation in any way. It's amazing. We're really impressed by how far we've come in just the past few years. We started in 2010, like I said, and it was a little bit of a slow start just being that it's a small organization, but we have some great people, great chiropractors on our advisory board, and we've been trying to sort of stay attuned to not just research, but also education and policy changes in the profession and keeping people aware of those things. So there is a blog that links to our website where we keep you guys up to date with some of the different things happening around the world related to our profession. And we really, we do operate on donor support from the profession. And in that sense, we're also grateful for how much support we've been able to receive over the past few years. We've had a couple exciting events over the past few years also where we've invited speakers to a venue, and we've always had a sold out crowd, and so we're grateful for that, and we hope to put on some more of those events to sort of share the knowledge and the expertise of people in our profession who support our mission with all of you. And then also we've put together a research agenda, which is available on our website, and that research agenda kind of outlines what we want to study related to studying the subluxation. So the types of research that we need, the reliability and validity of the things that we use to measure the subluxation, the ways that we determine whether we've actually corrected the subluxation, and then of course, just like that diabetes study, well, what are the outcomes? What do you get? What's the good out of getting adjusted? We've been able to put together that document, and that's available for the public. And most recently, we have put together sort of our 5-year report, and that's been disseminated at different events. I'm sure we'll have copies at Mile High. It's been sent out to some of our greatest supporters as well, a hard copy, and it just kind of outlines all the different projects and people that have been involved closely. Lots of exciting stuff. Again, really just so grateful for people who support the foundation. We're just trying to really help chiropractic reach its full potential.
Well, and it has a big gap between where it is now and the potential that chiropractic can reach. So, and this is a huge leg of it is research. Now, got a little bit more stuff for people that are listening. We get students that listen to this everywhere I go. Pretty much now, someone says that they listen to the Mile High podcast and they get so much out of it. With going through all those setting up the guidelines and going through all the data that you've gotten exposed to, that a lot of us in the field, we don't take the time to read or don't get to read. What are some things that chiropractors could be certain about? And let me ask you, let me say why I say this. I find training chiropractors, talking to doctors, a lot of times where they struggle is the lack of certainty. That they may know something emotionally, but they may not have certainty about it. So what are some things that you've seen that like, hey, we should feel like really solid that we can say this because there's great evidence for it?
I think that first and foremost, there's a lot of great evidence that what we do changes the function or the balance within the autonomic nervous system. And I think it's really important that we are confident in that and also understand what that means. A lot of the current focus in the biomedical literature is on something called attenuated autonomic disorder, which is basically what we look at as, you know, things like being in pattern. So to be attenuated means to sort of reach a standstill, right? And it's what we consider to be in pattern, or to have diminished heart rate variability, or whatever measures you're using. There's definitely evidence out there that all of those measures that we're using are reliable, they're valid, so they work. They measure, they do what we think that they do when it comes to things like that. Even something like an SF-36 is a really great indicator of how our patients are doing. I think it's really important that we keep measuring and documenting that, because that's how we can actually be confident that we are making a change. And so when we make a correction and we impact the autonomic nervous system, there's research out there, not even just in chiropractic, that's showing a person with attenuated autonomic function is at risk of organ failure as a whole. Things like diabetes and PTSD are strongly associated with that. So I think we can be very confident that when we deliver an adjustment, we are saving people's lives and improving their quality of life. And we can be really confident that the measures that we're using actually do accurately show that. And so that's why, again, we should be using those measures on a regular basis in our offices. But honestly, I think that chiropractors should be more confident. We should be more proud of what our capabilities are in the office as a whole. A lot of the research out there is related to certain conditions, but outside of conditions, it's not just people who are sick and suffering who need chiropractic care. They obviously definitely do. But I think it's also people like me a few years ago who thought, we're doing just fine, we don't need anything. Those are probably the people who really, really deserve chiropractic care. Looking in that salutogenic model, those are really people who want to reach, who think they're doing just fine, and show them that there's even better than fine.
Yeah, I always explain that as a couple things to patients. One, I tend to tell them, hey, you may feel like you're fine, but you're in like second or third gear, and there's gear 4 and 5 that you can get to, and you just don't even know that your car has those, right? So, and if you switch to them, you'd find out, wow, there's this whole other level of life experience that I'm just not accessing, and a lot of people are like that. And then the other thing is that when they start to experience those changes, like either because they see it maybe clinically in an outcome assessment, maybe it's a scan or an x-ray or some test or indicator, or they experience in something in their body like, I didn't know I wasn't sleeping well or had a lack of energy, or I can do so much more. Those kinds of things in an office setting, we're not talking a research setting, right? A clinical setting. I always then say, well, hey, may we never find out what we prevented, right? By having you now function better versus functioning with some level of obstruction and dysfunction that would have become something larger later.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that I just, think is really important, something I'll stress at Mile High as well, is the language that we use, the semantics of chiropractic are just as important as anything else. And so when you go through the literature, you see a lot of literature that talks about the spinal manipulative therapy or an osteopathic manipulation, and using those types of terms interchangeably with the chiropractic adjustment, subluxation being used, synonymously with just a misalignment, things like that. I think that sort of devalues what we do. And so I really encourage chiropractors in their offices, absolutely, in terms of patient education, but also in their documentation, and if they are writing literature, to be able to sort of be confident in our lexicon and stick with those words, because it's sort of like you hear about slang that ends up in Webster's dictionary every year, right? It's a little bit different, but our terms within the chiropractic profession become more broadly accepted and less questioned the more that we use them in the literature.
Yeah, and I really admire that, because there are other research organizations that don't pay attention to that as closely as the foundation does. Because if we just say, oh, everything that says spinal manipulation is us, that's not great. I mean, it's okay to reference some of those articles 'cause it's great to see, but we do need to make sure as much as possible in our projects that we use subluxation, adjustment, not manipulation or lesion, because it's not the same thing. So it's great that the foundation's cognizant of it. Most people don't even realize that the foundation's so aware of that and so conscious of it and what it puts out.
Absolutely.
And one of those things about certainty with research is that a lot of times when people don't have that certainty, they start to get they apologize for chiropractic.
Right.
It's like they apologize, versus being how solid it is and how important it is for that person. Now, if a person needs to get more certainty, what are the things that they can get from the foundation, whether it's something they can read more often or listen to more often, so they can develop that certainty because they look at research?
I think reading through our research agenda is probably a really good starting point, because it maybe gives chiropractors a sense of where the questions that we should be asking ourselves and asking of the profession, and that hopefully is a launching pad for some brainstorming and some ideas of the avenues to explore, like looking at all of your scans, looking at all of your x-rays over a period of time, and getting a sense of what it actually means. So we're not just doing those things because it's a part of our procedures, that's how we've already done it, but giving some meaning to the things that you do on a daily basis. I think that would help bring a lot more certainty. And then, of course, keeping up with the news within the profession through our blog and our newsletter hopefully helps to kind of fuel the passion that chiropractors have to protect this idea of subluxation-based care and correction.
And one of the things we'll do when we write up this podcast is I'll put links to all of that so that people can access the research agenda, know where they can get more to read, and all of that, and links to the website, which is, I mean, how much better could you get than vertebralsubluxation.org as a web URL for chiropractic? So on that, another thing is, if someone's got a great case, they have something they see happen in their office, or it's a great change on a film or a test, or a person's symptom status or functional status, and they're excited about it, what should they do if they think, hey, this might be something that other people on the planet would like to know about?
Absolutely. I love to hear from chiropractors who are excited about research. So the best thing to do is email us. You can email me directly, or also just email the foundation to Dr. Matt McCoy. It's vertebralsubluxation.ckwon, KWON, @gmail.com, or vertebralsubluxation@gmail.com. Got lucky, those URLs weren't popular, I guess. They're 2010. So email us and we can help you get started as far as getting your IRB paperwork together and things like that. We also have services we can provide. We can help connect you with students who are interested in helping with the research project. I know everybody's really busy, and sometimes it's a little bit labor intensive to be at the library or be online looking for the literature that supports what you do and things like that. But that's probably a good starting point. Another good starting point is definitely to just go online and see what other research there might be relevant to what you want to study, and see if there's some basis to get you started.
Yeah, and I'm always cognizant in my office when I hear somebody say something changed that was significant. I mean, not like their back hurt, but like something super significant in their health, a medication they went off of, or a clinical finding like an x-ray. Like I saw an x-ray yesterday that changed incredibly, and the first thing that went in my head was like, oh, could this be publishable? Because it was a great outcome for the work that I do. And so I want to encourage people that are either students now and listen to this, right, or in the field, to think that way, right? Because that's the way we can build a body of literature. And when I have someone that says this and this change, like my first thing I say is like, well, do you have a medical doctor that you had all that data from, that you said you had this condition, and do you have the the history, health history from your prior care before us, so that way we can compile that. Like, I think that way, and people have to think that way more often, because that way we have an incredible database.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, kind of speaks to what I was saying earlier. People who have been engaged in research for a while, as you have, and we appreciate your contributions to that. But especially students, if they've been involved in research earlier on, then they're sort of research minded in that what they see. It's just like, chiropractors, we're out somewhere and we look at things like people's posture, their head carriage, things like that. Just naturally, we're minded to look that way. And if we're engaged in research, reading literature, things like that, then we're sort of research minded in our offices, and we hear something and we think, could that be a research study? Could that be a case study? Or do we have a few people that fit that? Could it be a larger study? And so it's really just like anything else that we do in life, right? Life is based on habit. And so I like to see research in chiropractic be sort of habitual.
Yeah, absolutely, big time, and it's vital, because if we don't do that, we're going to get further left behind, which we do not want to have happen. So just having that thought process of, ooh, could this be something I could publish, and reaching out to the foundation with that is huge, because then you too can have something that impacts the world. And you have more certainty and more excitement. And I'll tell you, it's really great to be able to say to a patient, hey, yeah, we published this and this. And more chiropractors need to do that, and we all have to work together on that. And another thing to remind people, can you tell people about supporting the foundation with the Amazon Smile program?
Sure, that's a really easy way, especially now in the holiday season, to support the foundation without really doing anything extra. So if you go to smile.amazon.com, if you're a regular Amazon shopper, and then once you're on that website, it'll allow you to select a nonprofit organization. If you search for the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation, and have your settings so that you automatically support us. It's a small percentage of the items that you purchase. The proceeds are donated from Amazon to the foundation. It doesn't cost you anything extra in the products that you're purchasing, and it's just a service that Amazon provides. There's many different nonprofits on there that benefit from it, and we hope that you might choose the foundation as the organization to support when you're doing your holiday shopping.
Well, there you go. And people are going to do a lot of that right now. So when you go to Amazon and you buy those, gloves for your loved one, or whatever you do, or the new coffee maker, a portion of that could go to research, and it's not a big change to make. So that's a good thing to mention right now. And sometimes people think research, or they think science, and they think like boring, and that needs to not be the case. Like, when you hear research, you have to get, your ears need to perk up, and you need to get excited that this is your profession. And the more that you know about science and research, the more that you can impact people's lives in your office, because people do notice when you are more knowledgeable, and it pays dividends in your office that you can share stuff. So constantly being aware of that, and that's why we have 8 hours of continuing education during Mile High, during the main part of the program, and the bulk of that's all science and research, obviously with you and Dr. Curtis and others. That's going to be the focus of it, because we want people for those hours to be able to leave Mile High with not just more, deep in their philosophy. That's vital. Expand their vision. We want that. We want to have better business strategies, but having a foundation of more certainty of the science of what you do is huge. And there's not many resources for that, and that's why we're highlighting that this year, and we're grateful for the Foundation's help in part of that. So anything else you want to share before we go?
Thank you so much, Danny. We're really excited to be at Mile High. I really appreciate it. And I just kind of want to remind people that research is something to be excited about. It doesn't mean we're leaving philosophy at the door. It means that we're merging philosophy and science together. So for those of you out there, I'm excited to be able to have those conversations with you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being on here with us. And we will put on the podcast in the notes how people can reach you, right? So they can contact you if they want to be involved in somehow, and how they can support the foundation. I look forward to seeing you and everybody who's tuned in August. And this may be the last episode before the holidays, so we wish everybody great holidays, and do your shopping through Amazon Smile for the foundation. Okay, if there's any last minute gifts that you're rushing to get 48 hours out before delivery, do that. Okay, so and hats off to everybody at the foundation. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody August 17th to 20th in Mile High City, www.milehighchiro.org. So have a great day, and remember to subscribe on iTunes, and keep saving and changing lives with chiropractic.
Thanks again. See you in August.
Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.